Hey, John.
Eric, probably make this short. Interesting. Still won't enlarge. Okay. Okay. Do you see what I'm showing?
Yep,
Just
I do.
get this thing over with. Okay. So basically, let's see. I took a look at the document that we're contributing, and
Mhm.
I've done the final. I was doing the final roll-ups for the baseline, the Ethernet, and the service baseline.
Mhm.
So what Jeff and I talked about was we've currently got um, the Ethernet NIC in process. So there's a contribution entry for that. So I was thinking about expanding that to include both of these.
I,
But
I thought service baseline was already in process as
it's
well.
it is in process in that it's all been approved.
Okay.
As far as from us, it just needs to be create a Moxie entry, and
Mhm.
then it goes through the SC.
Okay.
And so what I thought was I had to go make an SC presentation, but since this is a quote white paper slash requirements document, it doesn't need SC presentation. So you just basically we okay it here, it gets passed up to the project says okay, and then it gets reviewed by the SC. It doesn't, so it still gets approval. You just don't need a
Is
So
is
presentation
that
does that
because it's a white paper or because
because it's a white paper slash requirement. Because
uh, okay.
so
because
does that make our jobs easier here?
it makes it a whole much easier.
Okay, good.
Uh,
I'm happy then.
okay, so OCP has done a lot of work making sure that specifications that say specifications are really specifications and their base design spec and product design, and that's it. Everything else is a white paper, and only specs go through a presentation at the SC and then go through the approval cycle. Everything else doesn't have the presentation, still goes through approval cycle. Generally, the approvals, oh crap, a review approval cycle. Generally, the reviews don't have much feedback other than semantic stuff. Okay.
Now, because it's a white paper, does that water down our work, or I, I'm worried that if at some point it's not a spec,
Mhm.
does that mean we have less teeth?
Um, Maybe I should go to my SC presentation.
Because maybe I guess we create these profiles to drive interop, and if they're not seen as specifications, then how are we driving interop?
Yeah, I have the same question.
Is it and is it because a different project is going to say, by the way, you need to conform to this profile, and that's where the teeth come from?
Exactly.
Then that's good.
Well,
So,
that's
so,
what the case is with Ethernet NIC, but what about base service? Where does
okay,
that
so,
glue into?
okay,
Well, it would depend because out of like the server project, they would say you need to conform to the server management profile, which in turn references the base profile. Out of the liquid cooling work stream, they'd say if you're building a CDU, you need to conform to the CDU profile, which leverages that layer cake of profiles.
You guys are almost correct.
Okay. And well, you could fix my last name while you're here.
Oh, you're not named after the mountain?
No, I'm named after the olive oil company.
Wait a minute, how did I misspell it?
Auto correct may have helped you. Who knows? It only knows about the mountain.
Oh, okay. I should put that in my dictionary. Okay. Okay. So at the time I found this out because I was doing the presentation. I sent it to Alicia, and she said, "You don't have to do a presentation." Okay. So anyway, this was my presentation. The three specs that I was going to take through. Basically, what the content of usage guide is by these, and then prescription. So profiles in themselves, the profile from the hardware management project has no prescriptive power. Profiles need to be referenced by a prescriptive entity. Okay. And so the methods I know is this is the traditional one. This is the required by OCP marketplace. So the profiles don't appear until you have a product that you want to put in the OCP marketplace. And as part of being a product in the OCP marketplace, there's a set of requirements that if you're a server, you must conform to the server profile. Everything else is baseline. Okay, so we can go back to that and say if you're a CDU product going into the marketplace, then you should conform to whatever CDU profile we need to specify. Now, that file still exists about the requirements. The linkage to it, to Marketplace, has somehow been broken. So I need to go reestablish that. 7 years ago, we made this requirement. And so it's still out there and people are still following it. We need to link it to the Marketplace um, contribution page. Okay. So that was the highest level of teeth of it wasn't part of the design spec because it wasn't a base design. It wasn't a design spec of a generic product because the design spec would talk about hardware. So it would have an AST 2600. Whether you put a OpenBMC, whether during a product creation, the company decides to put OpenBMC on it or some IPMI thing, it's purely up to them. And that's what makes it a product. So in the product spec, you can say, yes, I put an AST 2600 here, and I put the software here. Right, here's my link to my software, so you can go build the product too. And that's the only place it would appear. So to me, that wasn't sufficient teeth. So that's why I went to the marketplace and I said, okay, in order for any of these products to get into the marketplace, we need to set a requirements. And that's actually what drove Celestica to add the PSME running on top of the NOS in order to expose a redfish interface from an application, not from because the product had no BMC. And they came to me and said, "What do we do here, John? We have BMC, but we need to comply with this requirement to get into the marketplace." We said, "Throw this, throw this PSME on it, and then it is conformant to the baseline." Okay, so that's the first way. The second way is it's referenced by a base or design specification. So even though you can't prescriptively make it mandatory, you can make a quote guidance that that should have be manageable, be a red version, be a this profile. So that's the best coding wording you're going to get out of a base or design specification. And then last is referenced by another SDL, which is again exactly what Ethernet NIC is that it'll be out there, and our networking NIC 3.0 may decide not to reference it, even though they reviewed but they work on a different timeline. So we can go to Auto Ethernet, and we can point to this profile once it's released and say, thou shalt do that, and then on top of that, thou shalt do all this Auto Ethernet stuff. Is that clear? You guys see
Yeah,
that?
good enough
Oh,
for
okay,
me.
okay. Okay. Yeah, that's why I had this slide here, was to make sure this prescriptive issue has always been a problem with me, because I hate doing profiles and having no teeth in it, right? So
Mhm.
okay, so in my presentation, it was basically the Ethernet NIC baseline, and then the two things from service baseline, and that was it. Oh, and then the reference for the service baseline is from, I believe, the PowerShell and liquid cooling baseline, all reference to service baseline. Is that correct, Mike?
Uh, so today, PowerShell and liquid cooling baseline do reference baseline service. Sorry, service baseline.
Oh, okay. So
Today they
these
do.
should
Yeah,
be,
the main thing is I guess for a 1.2, the platform baseline needs to migrate to leverage the service baseline.
oh, right. So that's, yeah. So this becomes solid,
Mhm.
and this is solid,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, which is why I really want to get service baseline out first, because the other areas I'm working on rely on it.
Right. Okay. And so this is what we need to do, and we'll roll baseline in order to
Yes.
link to this. One thing is that this reference would be a breaking change for
Which
baseline.
reference? I don't think so. We need to do that analysis, but I don't think it's a breaking change.
Do you have any mandatory stuff in here which isn't in here?
We'd have to review it. I don't think there is.
Oh, cool. I assumed it was.
The one thing that could come to mind. Oh, you know what? Maybe the event service would break it, because I think the event service is mandatory in the service baseline, but not in the platform baseline.
Let me see. Event service.
That's the service baseline. So what's the platform baseline right now?
No, the baseline. There is no baseline.
Yeah. Uh,
It was mute on event.
Yeah, so it might be breaking. It might
Okay,
it, would that be a 2.0 or a 1.2?
the way 2.0, right?
Okay.
Because I thought 1.1 means you can run the old stuff,
Oh,
right?
you're
And
right.
not have to change anything.
You're right.
So I have no problem making 2.0. I mean, that's why I
Yeah.
highlighted it, is that
Yeah.
it may be
Okay.
breaking, guys. And
Okay.
then so we'll do a new baseline after these get passed. We'll
hmm
do a new baseline, and then we'll do a two servers profiles. One that points to this 1.1 baseline, and one that points to 2.0 baseline. Because the server guys are the ones that are running, and
Correct. Yes. Okay.
okay, and then we can let the platform groups do whatever they want as far as pointing to it and moving stuff. Okay, so so that so with that, I took a look at documentation, and did a pull request. I did two things. Sorry, guys, I'm just moving shit around. Oh, here it is. Okay. So maybe show this. And so I looked at the template for the white paper, and they've changed a couple of things. So I just went and modified the three documents. This is the Ethernet NIC, the service baseline, and the baseline. So you guys can see this, share?
Yep.
Okay. So first is license. We don't have a license on this document. Um, and the version history, they moved to the top, to the front, as opposed to the bottom. And they added, they needed a license. So all our documents would have been punted back if it wasn't here. And then, so I did one for Ethernet NIC, one for the service baseline, and yeah, that's the deletion, and then one for baseline. Okay, so that's the only change that I made. Yeah. Oh, and I added the image because the thing pointed to common creator. Okay, and then what the white paper also allows you to do is name authors. So I was going to go add all three of us as authors for our independent documents, if you don't mind.
The baseline, I'd like you to also add Jeff Otter since he did a lot of the initial work.
Well, that's fair.
Okay. Shit. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, I'll ask him whether he wants to be associated with HPE or Vertiv.
Well, he'd have to be HPE for the
Oh,
contributions
Yeah,
so far.
he did all the contributions under HPE, but I also see you don't have any companies associated in the version history. I don't know if that matters or not.
that's not needed. I looked at all the examples. They had nothing. So, as a matter of fact, if I look at the
It's not
list
an
of
OCP thing.
right, if I look at the list of authors, it's name and company. Yeah, so I'll ask him. I'll put HPE for Jeff Otter. Okay, and
Probably
then
be both.
I'll ask him how he wants to be
Yeah.
remembered. Um,
He
then
he probably wants Compaq.
Hey, man, our 10-year anniversary was yesterday as HPE.
okay, you guys see this? This is the template for the.
Yep.
Okay, so there's one more thing in here, which is. Oh, here goes the next. That's all revision. There it goes. So if you notice, most of the text is down here. The license, they actually moved to the bottom, so I have to take that license block and move it. But they have this compliance, the OCP tenants, which of course we all know and love. We don't have that section, and it's going to be a bounce back if we don't have that section.
Yep.
Right.
Even
So
for white papers.
even for white papers. So I don't know why. So
Okie dokie.
this is the one. I have never seen document get pushed back in context. That's the text. And so concerned about. So for openness, I have this users guide and profile we developed from the repository, public repository.
So is it just
John,
me or did John get real faint?
John, did you move your microphone?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Sorry, guys. Okay, so you get the point where nothing has ever been rejected based on
Yeah,
this.
that's fine.
Okay,
You,
okay.
you need it,
So
but it all looks good to me.
Yeah,
okay, yeah. And so all right, in that case, I'm gonna pick all this up and drop it in that section for all three documents and then make the merge. And then we'll have a document.
Cool.
Okay, then we're set. Um okay, so Jeff, I'll be asking for agenda item this month's project meeting. We can go
okay.
through this, we can reapprove all three. And then I decided that since Ethernet Nick already has a Moxie entry to move forward, I'm going to create a Moxie entry for the other two. And that way we can take those two out through at the same time. The other two is baseline and service baseline, so they kind of naturally fit together anyway.
Moxie the tool.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, it's that. Moxie
Okay,
is the tool that we now use to keep everything running straight. It's the workflow tool.
okay,
Actually, it's called Moxo, Moxo.
okay.
Oh, I was picturing the soda.
Okay, with
That'd
that,
be a good logo for it.
so with that, I think I'm done.
Before you adjourn the meeting, there is one pull request I just posted like a minute before the call. It's some minor adjustments from interop testing we did recently to the service baseline profile. And I can talk through the changes and we can discuss
Sure.
whether some of them are
Do,
needed.
do you want to share it or should I
Up to you. There
pull?
not a lot of changes, so it's pretty straightforward. It's yes. Let me bring it up in parallel in case I need to make live edits. So that first change, we saw on some units that had a host interface, they would not show a name service property on that resource. So I loosened the requirement to support it to indicate that you need to have name servers at least on one interface. That's the pattern we kind of followed to help out the USB NIC usage in the model.
Okay. That requirement is an if support.
Supported means you need to
Okay.
have it at least once. It has to be on support on at least one resource.
Okay.
And I assume that there would be at least one externally accessible NIC where you would see name servers listed.
Hmm. Okay.
This next one, I think we need a little discussion on. Managed network protocol, whether or not we need host name and FQDN, because looking at Ethernet interface, we need at least one instance of an Ethernet interface reporting those properties. But we did see that a few systems were not reporting FQDN on the managed network protocol resource. So I'm kind of waffling whether or not to make this change. I at least want to raise it for discussion.
I would make the change.
You would make the
'Cause
change.
to me, it's sort of baseline, and the baseline is kind of the lowest bar we can
Hmm.
make, right?
Sure.
And if like server wants to say, yeah, you got to have a mandatory, they can go do that.
So if that's the case, do we want to lower, loosen the requirement on Ethernet interface then? Because right now the requirements say supported on Ethernet interface, which means that you need to have at least one Ethernet interface resource that supports these properties. So if we
It needs to have at least one Ethernet interface, right?
It needs to have at least one Ethernet interface with hostname and FQDN. So right now, the requirement on Ethernet interface is stricter than managed network protocol. But if we make this recommended, then I would think we need to make the other properties in Ethernet interface recommended as well.
The Ethernet interface profile itself or the one in service baseline?
The one in service baseline.
Okay, that's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah, not in your not in the other
Yeah,
not in the other profile.
yeah. Man, well, the property should be supported. It can still be null, right? Because I'm
No.
thinking of people that hard code their IP addresses still. I guess your service could still get it from DHCP. They
Mhm.
just wouldn't have a DHCP, in which case still you'd come back with null. Hopefully they're not trying to pass the profile in that environment. So I think I'm
Hopefully.
okay.
So if that's the case, then so John, if just to back up in case you're not following, the current requirement in Ethernet interface is you need to have hostname and FQDN on at least one Ethernet interface. So you already have to implement it. If you do have that, you might as well also add that to manage network protocol and just have the same value there.
Mm-hmm.
So if we could loosen the requirement, say, you know what, for a baseline profile, you don't need to report name servers, you don't need to report FQDN, you don't need to report host name. And if we want to go that path, then we should change it on Ethernet interface to mark as recommended.
But you're still trying to set the baseline for the implementers, not the environment,
Correct.
right? And you want everybody's in some environments to be able to get those properties from DHCP and export them out.
Hmm.
So I think what you're doing is fine.
So
I
should
can
we?
just hear a customer saying, "Why can't I see this when I'm trying to pass the profile?" It's because you're hard coding IP addresses, dude.
Hmm. So do we want to loosen those requirements to recommended in Ethernet interface? Just to keep the bar low for profile conformance?
So if we leave it the way it is, right, and we get a issue saying, my thing won't pass because of this, and we loosen it,
Hmm.
then it just becomes a dot release,
Sure.
as opposed to if we left it loose and tightened it later, for whatever reason, we'd have to go to a new revision.
Okay. So do you think that we should leave managed network protocol as is in that
Yes.
case? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. And then we can let someone complain, hey, I'm not passing this profile.
Yeah.
Do we really need? Okay. Okay, I'll back out that change now. All right, I had that queued up. Um, okay. So let's talk about the other ones. Pretty minor. Um, links was an oopsie, mainly because not all sessions will have links. The whole reason for this was if you implement outbound connection and a session maps back to an outbound connection, you need to show that link. For standard retro sessions, links does not apply, and so we had to loosen that to support that case. The other thing that we saw is that not everyone shows the password property in GET responses. And looking at the schema definition, it's technically not required.
Oh, wow.
It's only specified as required on create.
Mm-hmm.
So you can simply omit it from GET responses, and I can't find a good rational reason why is to make password mandatory because it's always going to be null in
I'm with
GETs.
you exactly.
Okay.
And so most people just aren't going to return it as a good sanitization,
Yeah.
even though you're supposed to have it to indicate that they can set it. I think that
Yes.
subtlety is lost on everyone.
That subtlety is lost, but especially at the subtlety is lost, but especially at the time zero case, you're not even you won't even have any session resources, so you don't really have that inspection that level of detail from inspection because there's nothing to inspect at that time. So
Mhm.
it's just an awkward case that I don't think we need to get hung up on.
No, I agree.
Okay.
Okay, I agree.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I just pushed the changes that we just talked about to back out that manager network protocol change.
I just refreshed.
Yep. All right.
Okay,
Easy peasy.
we're good with this.
That's good.
I'm
Oh,
all right. Excellent. Thanks.
okay, done. Okay, with that, is there anything else?
See, we have a lurker.
Oh, would the looker like to introduce himself? Oh, hi, Russ.
No,
It's
a learner,
Russ.
not a lurker.
Ah, okay.
Hello?
So Russ is heavy on getting us to markdown. So I
don't think
welcome
many
him with
people like
open arms.
using it though.
Huh?
I really don't think many people like using it.
Oh, well, we use it exclusively here now.
Absolutely.
I see that and appreciate it. We'll see what others say, but I'm just not seeing a lot of. I'm
Yeah.
not sure how I can incentivize others. I actually thought about, hey, it's a great way to get rid of your Google Docs issue.
Mhm.
But
And y- and I
good.
like the fact that you don't need to have a single pen holder to make
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
changes.
Yep,
Everyone
that's
could
one of the
do
things.
piecemeal pull requests.
And
Yep.
issue/pull works well together, and the train model works well. And the
Yep,
one thing is, if you're doing electric specs or board layouts or anything like that, tables suck in OC in Markdown.
yeah, they do. Um, so GitHub Markdown, I think for me, it solves a lot of what I would like to see changed. I just don't think it can work for every use.
Yep.
And then you get into the how do you incentivize if you're going to leave, another way, be it Word, be it something else, right? Of doing it. And I think many people are just going to keep flocking there, and we'll just have to realize it's multiple usages that we have to solve. But I would like to incentivize more people to use GitHub if we can. Markdown.
Well, right now I know the hardware project is using it, and the server project is using it. And the server project is using a converter from TCG. So they dealt with that table problem. Is it how they solved it? But it's acceptable to at least them. So, I think a demonstration at SC would be a good first step.
Yeah. Are you guys? So I'm actually talking to Jeff in a couple hours here. If we were to do something on the OCP Academy, kind of like a very short how-to, would you be interested in helping with that?
Yeah, we have to first decide which converter we want to use and narrow down on one, because now we have this one, which we're using the DMTF one, and then there's the TCG one, which is right at this point fully public.
Okay, I didn't realize.
Yeah, that's why Jeff and I, like Jeff at TCG, and he went to Ken Kuiper, Kevin Kuiper, and Kevin Kuiper threw them to me saying, hey, someone else is all trying to convert OCP to Markdown. So you guys go talk. So
Okay.
when we bottom out with that, then yeah, I think moving forward would be good. I definitely contribute.
You know,
Thank you for that.
I think most people are interested in mechanics too, right? The whole issue then pull, then the spec is ready or it's not, or gosh, it makes management of this stuff so easy.
Yeah.
The one
Oh yes,
problem is
but
you'll have to teach them how to do tables.
yeah, once you get them first with this is what Markdown allows you to do from a multiple editing session, right? Of
Yes.
you can track issue. Once you get bought into that, then they'll listen to the rest of it.
Mhm.
But if you can't get them bought into that, then it's not an issue. Because right now, I said hardware management is has gone to Markdown. Every group has done that except for fault management, and they continue on Word, and they've now run into that same problem where they got so many
But
people
they
with
don't,
so many comments.
yeah, exactly. If you're in the environment where you really need multi-author and multi-comment, and you've got to do all of that.
Yeah, which is why I drove them to ship a document, guys. Once you ship the document, you can now shift the format. But while you're in this track of getting this document out, you can't switch cars at the same time. So
Yep.
get this document out, which they did in Global Summit. And now they can consider whether you go shift to Markdown.
So John, when you said that all inclusive, everybody but fault management, what's that set that you're talking about?
Hardware management project.
Profiles,
Okay,
yeah,
got
hardware
it.
management project, all the groups
All but.
that I have,
Got it.
I've kind of nursed them across that threshold.
Well, thank you for the
Legend.
inform. I had talked to Kevin before, but he didn't actually tell me the details that we had a couple different tool usages here.
Yeah. That's why Jeff and I have been pushing you at different times. We both want to go. we were just riding different horses. So I tried his horse, and it works just fine. And if there's one which has almost constant innovation on it, then I'm fine with that. So
Okay, thank you.
okay. All right. With that,
All
I
right.
think we're done. Thank you,
Cool.
guys.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.